Alright, so we're going to be talking about reflection and refraction. So reflection first. What is reflection? Now, when a wave gets reflected off from a surface, it's going to be in the same medium, in the same substance. So it changes direction, but it's in the same medium. As it goes from one, as it hits the surface, it goes from one direction to another. Alright, so Alright, so reflection is when the wave changes direction and it happens at the boundary between two different media remaining in the same direction. So it changes direction at a boundary. Now, what happens to the wavelength and the frequency? So as it gets reflected, the wavelength and the frequency stays the same. So they don't change, they stay the same. And what about refraction? Now, refraction is when the wave changes direction as it changes speed when it goes from one medium to another. Alright, so that's refraction. Refraction is when it changes speed. The wave changes direction as it changes speed when it goes from one medium to another. Now, what happens when it goes from a less dense material to a more dense material? So this would be air. So the minus is for taking away, and the plus means add. Minus takes away, plus is add. So when it slows down, it goes towards the normal. That's what the T stands for. And when it speeds up, the plus, it's away from the normal. And what about the equation? What's the equation for refraction? Alright, so the equation is v equals f times lambda. So what happens when the speed goes down? The wavelength must go down because the frequency stays the same. And what happens when v goes up? When v goes up, lambda goes up. Now, there's also going to be partial reflection. So there's going to be partial reflection. Now, theta 1 should equal to theta 1. I haven't drawn it accurately. And there's always going to be partial reflection. Alright, so when v goes down, lambda goes down and f stays the same. When v goes up, lambda goes up because f stays the same. And if it slows down, it's towards the normal. So the minus, when it slows down, it's t towards the normal. And when it speeds up, plus, it's away from the normal. So what's refraction? Is when the wave changes speed as it changes direction, going from one medium to another. Alright, so the wavefront, the word wavefront, what it means is that the wavefront is a line joining points of a wave which are in phase. And if you think about the peak of each ripple, so by definition, it is the distance between wavefronts that are equal to the wavelength of the wave. Now I'm just going to flick through the book and just have a look at the definition of wavelength at the back. Alright, so this is page 580 in the A2 book, A1, A2 book. Now, the word wavefront, it says a line of points in phase with each other in a wave perpendicular to the direction of energy transfer. So it is a line of points in phase with each other in a wave, perpendicular to the direction of energy transfer. Have a look at this diagram. So for this diagram, can you see that the wavelength has changed? So when it goes from one medium to another, the wavelength has changed. So in this case, it's going from left to right. The wavelength has gotten shorter. So here, when waves refract, their wavelength changes. So if the wave slows down, the wavelength decreases, so the wavefronts get closer together. And what about this one here? You've got circular waves. So the circular waves, when it reflects off the surface, the wavelength stays the same. So when circular waves reflect off the surface, the wavelength and frequency remains the same, just like plane waves. And have a look at this diagram here. So here it's going into shallow water. So the water waves are refracted. Now, when it goes into shallower water, it slows down. It slows down and the wavelength gets shorter. All right, I'm just going to read out the news. Here it says Brazil's coronavirus outbreak reached the mark of 1 million infections as the disease shows no clear signs of slowing in Latin America's largest nation, months after the first cases were recorded. The country registered a record 54,771 cases on Friday, bringing the total to more than 1 million. The data compiled by Brazilian states also showed 1,206 fatalities, pushing the toll to 48,954. In both counts, Brazil trails only the US globally. Brazil's response to the pandemic, plagued by political infighting and mismatched quarantine orders, has made it harder for experts to pinpoint when the disease will peak in a country of 210 million people. With cases moving inland and into poorer regions while more cities lift restrictions, concern is growing that the disease will see a new surge. Estimates from the PUC University in Rio de Janeiro show cases will likely top 1.3 million by late June.